All right, you're on mute, Allie.
Sorry. Okay.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We are very excited that you are all here. We're really excited to present on this topic. I am Stephanie. I'll introduce ourselves in just a minute, but just a sort of precursor here. If you cannot see us or hear us, please just let us know in the chat box. If you have any questions, as I know there will be lots and lots of questions, you can actually submit them. There is a Q&A or question box. Submit them in the questions. And okay, voice is echoing. Okay. Hopefully you can all hear us well. Okay, I'll mute myself when Allie gets started. But if you have any questions, please, we will not take them during the presentation. There's going to be so many questions. This is a really beefy, meaty topic, so just enter them in the question box. And two other things, if you cannot stay on for the whole presentation, we will make the replay available afterwards. It will get emailed to everyone at the end, and I will also make the slides in this PowerPoint available to you as well. Great. If you're going to log your credits, your continuing education credits, you will also get a certificate in the email that I send. So look out for the replay email. It will also contain the certificate that you need. I've included the learning codes and the performance indicators here, but it will also be listed on your certificate. And this is a 171 live webinar. So a little bit about me. Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie. I'm a New York City-based dietitian. My background is in clinical, and I transitioned pretty quickly into working in a group nutrition practice, and we were insurance-based. So I worked with that practice for over 5 years. I learned a lot, although we had a biller on staff. I learned a lot about insurance billing practices, policies, just working with clients. And now I've transitioned to working in my own private practice. And disclosure, this presentation is sponsored by Healthie, and I work as the dietitian on staff for Healthie. If you are a Healthie member and you're looking to learn specifically how you're going to use Healthie's billing platform to do your billing, don't worry about it. I will send you another email with a live class that you can join that's really specific to Healthie billing. So just send me an email if you need anything. Now I'm going to introduce our presenter today, our speaker. I'm mostly going to moderate. Allie is the one who's going to be sharing all of this really incredible information. Allie is a Texas-based medical office supervisor. She has over 16 years working at Blue Cross Blue Shield, and she works in a group nutrition practice as their main biller, and she's been working there for over 3 years. So she's really experienced with dietitians, both in the credentialing side and also handling all of the billing claims for the practice. So she is our go-to for all things billing. Just a quick overview of our agenda today. There's a lot of things to get through. We're going to do our best to really give you actionable, detailed information that you need. We're going to get started with how to set up your practice and how to verify clients' benefits. So, sort of first part, getting your practice set up and knowing how you're going to handle clients when they come in. The second part is some notes on charting and what you should include, not include, and how to create your CMS 1500 claim, which you'll submit to insurance companies. And then our third part goes into the actual claim submission and the reimbursement details. So we're going to try and get through all of that. Again, if you have any questions, please put them in the question box. We will send the replay afterwards if you have to leave or if you've joined late, so don't worry about it. And we're going to get started. I'm going to let Allie talk. Thank you so much for hosting us today, Allie.
Thank you for having me, and I'm hoping I can help everybody today. So the first section that we're going to start on is setting up your practice and verifying clients' benefits. I believe that this is pretty important if you're planning on taking insurance with your practice. I mean, if you're wanting to see more patients, definitely getting on as many insurances as possible is great. But if you're a single person, I would probably limit it at the beginning. But once you're in network with the insurance, you'll see a huge increase. That's why I say just be careful, start out small. But you know, you want to ask yourself, do you want to go slow? Do you want to have an abundance of clients? How much time are you willing to set aside for the billing? And are you going to manage your own benefits and billings from the start? So when you ask yourself those questions, then you can start determining how many insurances that you eventually want to be credentialed on. And then once you do get credentialed, I would definitely sign up for the automatic reimbursement, the EFTs instead of checks. And that way you don't have to, you know, constantly be running to the bank, as well as, you know, doing all that part of the keeping track of things that way. It's a lot easier if you have EFTs and then having it automatically deposited into your bank account. Putting the right the tools and policies to consider, that when you're putting the right office tools and policies in place, you will have more accurate claims, less denials. You'll keep your claim status information organized. You'll reduce client cancellations, which of course everybody knows you're not going to get paid for, and ensure client responsibility amounts are paid. Overall, this is going to equal time saved and more money made. The first thing, when I first came to Lamont Nutrition, they were having the patients call the benefits or get the benefits. You can do that. I've seen some dietitians which will document all the stuff that they will need, but in all reality, I think that if you want accurate information and know for sure whether or not this is going to be a covered benefit and, you know, that your claim is going to be paid, I suggest you doing it. And so with the benefit verification, you're going to need, you know, what diagnosis. They're going to ask you for codes and the procedure codes, the diagnosis codes. You're going to ask for copay amount. Is there a copay amount? Is there a deductible? And if there is a deductible, how much has been met for the year? If there's a visit limit, I believe that that's a very important thing, which patients don't usually ask. If there's a visit limit, that will determine how many visits you can schedule out. If they have unlimited, then you know that you can maybe schedule one a month, you know, go there and then document it. We have a notes field where we document that. The EHR that we use also gives us a place where we can put how many, if there's unlimited, and how many of those visits have been used. So that helps the dietitian see, okay, well, this is how many I can, you know, book out. And if they cover telehealth services, which a lot of insurances do cover telehealth, and this is important why you need to ask specifically if nutritional counseling is covered for telehealth. A lot of insurances have telehealth, however, they use their own company like MedDoc and things like that, and you have to be on that service in order for it to be covered. So it's very important that you ask if dietitian or nutritional counseling services are covered for telehealth. You can use online tools like Availity, but I've noticed that for Blue Cross, it does not have nutritional counseling listed in Availity. Some of the, like Cigna's online, some groups have that available. We'll have nutritional counseling. United Healthcare does. We don't usually call United Healthcare because nutritional counseling usually is listed on their website for the benefits. So, but for most cases, you're probably going to end up it's better to actually call and talk to somebody. And there's very important is getting your reference number. So say, yes, thank you for that information. I need a reference number. That way, if anything should happen with that particular claim, if it's not a covered benefit, but the rep told you it was, at least one of your claims will be covered, and then you'll know from then on out that they're going to deny. So that reference number is so important if you ever have to call the insurance back in regards to the information that you received. Now, when you're verifying the information, the information that you're going to need is your client's full name that's listed on their insurance card, their member ID number and group number, the patient's date of birth, and usually the phone number on the back of their insurance card is the number that you're going to use to call to get that information. We require, and I suggest this for everybody, to have that new client paperwork filled out in advance. And we actually will cancel the appointment. We give them a 24, we just implemented this recently and have noticed a huge difference in things. We tell them that holds their appointment time, because we have at any given time, we have 15 people on our wait list. So that helps confirm the appointment, know that these people are serious about coming into their appointment, and we require a credit card at that time. Now, some people don't want to put that information on there, and that's fine, but with that paperwork filled out before, you know you're getting that card and your insurance and everything up front. Now, when we schedule the appointment, we actually ask for the insurance information at that time. That way we can get their benefits verified before their appointment time, so they know, hey, you're going to have an out-of-pocket expense of this amount of money, and do you want to keep your appointment if they don't cover it? They'll know ahead of time, and that way, if they don't hold that appointment, if they don't want to go forward because they're paying too much money out of pocket, you can cancel it and get somebody else into that spot. So those are the kind of things. And also, at the time of service, you do want to get a copy of their insurance card front and back and store that on file. At the time when you're verifying your information, a lot of times they'll tell you if a pre-authorization is needed. Sometimes they do. For the most part, I see that the majority don't cover pre-authorization unless it's an HMO policy. And when you get yourself credentialed to most plans, you have the opportunity to sign up to be an HMO provider or not. So if somebody does come to you and has an HMO claim and you decide that you don't want to be an HMO provider, then you don't need to worry about it. But when you call to verify the information or your benefits, you will know if the prior authorization is needed. Usually the customer service rep will tell you that it needs that. And in that case, you're going to need documentation from the primary care physician. You'll need to have that because you may need to request a prior authorization. The ones that we see the most of that we have to get prior authorization are Medicaid claims that we do. So if you decide, like I said, not to be an HMO provider, then you may not have to worry about this, but you'll find all of that out when you're verifying your information on the phone call. And then you want to make sure that that prior authorization number is included on your claim form. Otherwise, your claim will not be paid as it should. So also, when you're calling the provider, for those of you who've already done that, they're going to give you a disclaimer that states that a quote of benefits is not a guarantee of payment. You must tell your patient that. I have actually created a form that we have them sign so that I know that they've read it and they've signed it, because otherwise what we did notice as once I quoted the benefits and I gave them back what their benefits are, then if they didn't cover it and I call them and say, you now owe this much money, they said, well, you told me it was covered at 100%. So make sure that you communicate this, whether it's written. I believe that writing it and having them sign it is better, because if all else fails, you can go back to that documentation and state, you sign this. If you for any other reason, you knew that this was a possibility. So you want to make sure that you always have them fill out their HIPAA compliance form, which, like I said, when we have them fill out their paperwork and they have 24 hours to do that, that's one of our forms. If they have an HSA or an FSA card, I always tell them, put that card on file as payment so that that's where we can be taking your co-pays, your deductible, and anything like that. We do also have them sign a cancellation no-show form, which states that if you no-show or don't give us 24-hour notice, that you will be responsible for $30. And if you do not put a card on file, that you are responsible to pay the invoice that we send out to you as soon as possible. So we have pretty good luck. I mean, you're always going to have somebody who maybe doesn't have enough money on their card still, even if you require a payment on file. So there are still some, things that could happen, but for the most part, doing all of that up front is going to protect you on the back end. For clients that are not covered for nutritional counseling. So if you are in network with a client's insurance provider, but told by their rep that it's not a covered benefit, I submit them anyway. Sometimes they don't read their benefits correctly. And so sometimes they could be reimbursed. In that particular case, what I usually tell the patient is that your benefits are not, according to the rep, this is not a covered benefit. So this is your payment. You pay that up front. We'll submit the claim afterwards, and then we'll reimburse you if needed. How I explain that better too, which a lot of them are good with that, especially if I tell them that any of those out-of-pocket expenses can be used for any charges that so say they owe a copay, we can just take that credit and apply it to your your services going forward. And usually they're really okay with paying that money up front. So just to recap on that, always get the client info in advance and verify the benefits. I just think that is just a huge thing that I noticed. When I came on, there were a lot of claims that hadn't been paid, weren't paid properly. So I think that helped a lot in getting the proper payment and knowing exactly upfront what the benefits were. So that's huge, I think. Having the right client paperwork in place at the head and signed by the time the patient comes in for their appointment is very important. And then at the time of the initial session, make sure that you're getting the insurance card and any out-of-pocket expenses up front. That's going to be huge for you as well. Okay, so section 2 is client charting and CMS 1500 claim creation. Now, depending on if you're using an EHR, it's so much easier if you have an EHR. I haven't had to file an actual paper 1500 claim, so I think it's because it's so much easier to do this. So some of the important or best practices to follow that can help reduce the risk of any insurance audit is always follow HIPAA PHI rules. Availity has a really good training. It's $20 per individual that you can take if you need some HIPAA training. Make sure that you're storing your chart notes for 8 years, and that's what's good with the EHR. You have that so that it will contain all those records for you. And make sure that you're requesting the latest client chart note from your medical doctors and confirm your diagnosis codes. We're not allowed to diagnose clients, and so you need to make sure that you get all of the diagnoses that patient has, and make sure that the patient signs a medical consent so that you can work with their doctor. We usually send the notes back to the provider after that first visit, so that communication is open with the primary care physician that has referred them to you. Information that you collect during your session. Now, this okay, so the client diagnosis codes are definitely, I have all my dietitians. I am not a dietitian, but I make sure that my dietitians make sure that they list all of those diagnosis codes out. There will be one that is your primary diagnosis, and that's what's your insurance is primarily going to be looking at to be reimbursed. But to have all of those diagnoses listed is very key in processing claims, because that one diagnosis code may or may not be what pays or denies your claim. So if you have some other ones there listed, you can always submit it using the other diagnosis code. So, and then the onset of diagnoses, I haven't seen the need to use them, but it's not bad to have that. Here is, where are we going? Okay. Okay, client referrals from MDs. Do you need a referral for MD for each client you see? No. Some insurance plans may cover without a referral, but that should also be shared with you from the rep on the insurance company. Medicare is the only one that I know really need, and Medicaid need a referral. Most insurances don't, but if it's in a Medicare supplement plan, sometimes they do. So it's always good to have it, but just make sure that if it's specifically Medicaid or Medicare, that you do have a prescription from the primary care physician. So this is a 1500 form. If you're going to file on paper, please make sure it is not a sample copy like this. It has to be the actual 1500 form, and there is they will reject it if it is not the approved 1500 and there's writing on the back of it. It's a red print on the back of it. So if you're going to submit your claims on paper, make sure that you're utilizing this. My suggestion is don't do this. It's just too much. There's no way to, unless you're going to take a printed copy and scan it into each patient's folder, it's more work, and there's not a way to keep a good track of it. So I would suggest either having an EHR or using your insurance form online. Each of them have a place to submit your claims. We utilize Office Ally, which is quicker. So, but the paper option is available to you, but I would suggest not. It's going to take more work for you. A clearinghouse, of course, is where you can submit your claims. The great thing about a clearinghouse is it allows you to submit multiple insurances at one time. So at one time, when I submit a claim, I can submit up to, you can submit several. So I usually am doing 100 at a time when I'm submitting. So you're submitting it here. It scrubs the claim for you. It will check for errors. You will have to go back and fix those errors. So it'll tell you that diagnosis code is not valid for your data service. It will tell you if the member is not on file with the membership. So using a clearinghouse is really good. Some of the insurance companies do charge a fee to use that. So it'll, your price to have it might be different depending on how many insurances that you have. But the other plus thing with some of the clearinghouses is you have your EOBs come back all in one form. So you'll have a list of all the claims that you submitted, and it'll have all the reimbursement, whether it paid or not. So that's another plus with clearinghouse. Again, I kind of went over what the benefits of an EHR and is that it is going to save you so much time and savings. You'll have more accurate claims, convenient, and it's easy for record keeping. So kind of touched on when I kind of talked about it earlier. Information that's important for your CMS 1500, of course, the diagnosis code, the patient's name, address, must have address. And I don't think we listed that here because it just dawned on me that we need that. But an address, the patient's address is important. It will kick it back if you don't have that. The diagnosis codes are important. I have found since we've been here that the Z7 1.3 is your best friend. That is something that you're going to use quite frequently for most insurance plans. Blue Cross, Cigna are the ones that I use that the most for. United Healthcare wants a medical diagnosis code, so it doesn't work. But that Z7 1.3 is you're going to be your best friend because it encompasses so much. I mean, if you were to Google Z7 1.3, it encompasses everything that any person would come in to see you for. So Blue Cross and Cigna consider that a preventative benefit. So, or preventative diagnosis code. So you're going to get a higher pay for that particular code. And like I said, not all insurance companies like that code. I found out the hard way that United Healthcare does not like that code. It wants medical. And in fact, United Healthcare considers already being obese a preventative diagnosis code. So that's a whole nother subject that will take longer than an hour, I'm sure, to go over. If you decide that you want to take Medicare, this Medicare only covers for end-stage renal and diabetes. And then they only cover 3 one-hour visits for the first year and 2 any subsequent year. So you need to make sure that if you decide that you want to take Medicare, that's all or that they've had a transplant, a kidney transplant in less than 6 months. Those are the only 3 things that they're going to cover for a patient. And you must have that referring physician listed. Medicare is, well, we'll get into that later, but those are the things that if you're going to decide to take Medicare, those are the things that you may consider. The information, again, is patient's full name, date of birth. Oh, there's the address, yay. Provider's NPI and tax ID number. Some insurance companies I'm noticing are asking for that the taxonomy code as well. So, but having a clearinghouse that will actually come back and stop and say, hey, that they are requiring a taxonomy too. So we use Office Ally. It tells me if I need it or not. If it's an HMO claim and you're an HMO provider, you have to have that referral number on there. For Medicare, you're gonna need the referring physician name with the MPI number. Your service facility information, of course, and then your insurance group and your member numbers. Place of service code, so 202 is telehealth, 11 is office, 12 is home if you do any home, and place of employment. That's we've used that when you're verifying your insurance. I'm kind of just touch back on this is when you're verifying the insurance for a patient, we have gone to places of employment. We've done corporate wellness. And when we go to places of employment, we've actually seen the patients done consults at a place of employment. So it's important when you're verifying your information, your insurance information, if you decide you're going to do corporate and maybe see the patients at their place of employment, that is a covered benefit. You want to make sure that is covered before you do that and make sure that you get paid. These are the codes that we use. This is actually on, when I first started here, I had been doing claims processing for many years at Blue Cross, but I didn't know, what the codes, so I did research. This is on the dietetic website, and so 97802, you can bill up to 6 units. These are 15-minute increments, by the way, except for the group class, which is 30. So 97802, 15 minutes, you can bill up to 6 units for each of those. Now for the group sessions, because it's 30 minutes, of course, I've never billed up to 6. So, but those are the codes that we utilize, and I suggest just keeping. There are other codes out there, but if you're a single dietitian in the office doing the billing yourself, I would stick with just these 3 codes, and that we don't have to remember all these abundance of procedure codes. Box 17 on a 1500 is where you're going to be entering the referring physician and NPI that must be included on your Medicare claims if you want to get paid. Okay. I haven't seen where they've needed me to attach the actual medical necessity from the primary care physician, but I have seen where I have to have at least the referring physician and NPI number on there. And you must have it on file in case they do ask for it, okay? So it's important to have it on file. We always tell the patient, if these are one of your diagnosis codes and we haven't already received it from the primary care physician, that they must call and get that. Do they have supplemental insurance? If yes, most supplemental Medicare policies follow Medicare guidelines, which means they will only cover it for the same diagnosis codes. But when you call to verify that supplemental insurance, they're going to tell you that. But most of them follow Medicare guidelines. If they don't meet any of those diagnosis code, we offer a discount. And then again, we're using those CPT codes, and Medicare is a participating provider via Office Ally. So if you submit your claims through Office Ally, it's quicker. Medicare, to submit your claims through there. And the payments will come back. The EOBs will also come back electronically through Office Ally. So just as a section recap, make sure that you're following best practices and HIPAA when you're charting. Clearly document diagnosis codes, fill out your 1500s with the correct information, and submit via clearinghouse and insurance payer portals. It's going to save you so much more time if you can do a clearinghouse versus the insurance payer portal, but that's still quick. That's still going to be easier than paper claims. And of course, you're going to save time by using an EHR platform, including CMS 1500 generation. So section 3, we're going to talk about 1500 claim submission and reimbursement details. Make sure all the information is entered correctly before sending. This is important. Again, if you're using a clearinghouse, it will tell you if you don't. Submit to your clearinghouse or use the direct portal. We've already kind of touched over some of this. Some practice management, EHR platforms sync with clearinghouses. You can check with your EHR platform to see if they do sync with the clearinghouse that you use. That will save you some more time as well. And then you can also directly submit to the insurance provider email. Submitting claims across state lines. Okay, so Cigna and United Healthcare, usually it's all one. It doesn't matter, but for Blue Cross is where it kind of gets a little confusing for some. When you're calling to verify your benefit, you are contacting the patient's home plan or their insurance home plan. There's a lot of patients that we have, you know, in the state, in each state, that may have a Blue Cross that is actually in a different state. So if you are based in New York and you're seeing a client with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas, you need to make sure that you're calling the Texas office to verify the benefits. What's important though is you have to submit your claims to your local Blue Cross, okay? All claims must go to your local. So I know that there are tons and tons, if you're using an EHR or electric health record system, you are going to have a list of different Blue Crosses. You need to make sure that you're only using your local Blue Cross plan when you're submitting your claims. Now, we have included the Blue Card number here. This is the easiest way, I think, to verify insurance. I know previously we said to get the number on the back of the card. That can be helpful if this number isn't, but more than likely this is the one number you need to keep. This will make it easier for you. So with Blue Card, it's for any of your out of state. How they determine what state that plan is located in is that 3-letter alpha prefix. And that is important when you're getting that information from your patient. If they give you a member number for Blue Cross Blue Shield and they do not have any alpha numbers attached at the beginning, they did not give you the right number. So that's important. You must have that 3-letter alpha prefix. So ZGP is a Texas Blue Cross. So you can call this number and say, and I usually use it phonetically. So I usually say Zulu, Golf, Papa. It's easier because if you just say ZGP, it's going to say, was it this? And you're going to spend more time trying to get through. It will automatically take you to the right Blue Cross. So that's the easiest way to do that, and that's why we put that on here for you. But that's kind of important. UHC, Cigna, Aetna, those things, I've only had to submit to one place. It's Blue Cross that tends to be a little, you can call one number, submit your claims one place. Blue Cross has a little bit of differency, but we put that here so that might help you guys. And an EOB, or an explanation of benefits, when they come in, make sure that you're documenting them. Some EHRs do have the ability to automatically put that information into your EHR. So we, of course, utilize Healthie, and it will automatically put some of my claims in there. But make sure that you're documenting. When you get your explanation of benefits, you want to make sure that you're documenting wherever you keep your records on whether or not you got paid. Make sure you're documenting it correctly. EFT is just so important, having the electronic. And now, mind you, when you sign up to do the credentialing with any insurances, not all of them are going to follow. Like, say you did Cigna. Cigna may have like 10 different, I don't even know what you call it. So it's just like GPA, and they have all these little places underneath them that you may still get checks on. But if you can get the majority of your electronic filing and your payment all done electronic, it's going to be so much easier for you. But just make sure you're documenting it correctly. It went to the deductible, or it denied, or it took, you know, everything but a copay. Make sure that it's all documented correctly. For some of mine, I have to actually go to the provider website just to see if the claim paid. Also, with the claim reimbursement, if you keep on top of it pretty regularly, then you can run a report pretty regularly to tell you what didn't get submitted correctly, maybe if it didn't pay, why didn't it pay, and you can keep better records if you keep up with it. Collecting that client owed responsibility at the time of appointment is really going to help. And if not, making sure that you're keeping up with your EOBs will help if you need to send an invoice or not. Once you start accepting insurance, your practice is just going to grow. I can't even, we've been trying to get on Aetna for 3 years. And when we start accepting Aetna, it's going to just throw us even more to the roof. We see about 100 patients a day. 100 patients a week. So, and we take most insurances. Aetna's like one that we don't. And once we take that, I can't even imagine where we're going to go. So you want to make sure that you really think about how much you're wanting your business to expand before you start adding all of these insurances. And make sure that you're putting a buffer, 15-20 minutes in between your sessions so you can finish your charting or submit your claim. If you have an EHR, some of those will let you submit the claim after you've done your charting. So once you finish your note, you can submit your claim and it's on its way. You still need to make sure that you're setting time each week to call your insurance companies to verify new patient benefits, run your reports to check to see if you've been reimbursed, why you weren't reimbursed, those kind of things, and resubmit your claims if they were denied. So if your claim's denied, you want to know why they denied. Because it could have been information you entered incorrectly. It could be the diagnosis code. So you want to make sure that you're checking all of that. So you need to make sure that you're setting enough time to be able to do that. And then after you do that, then you'll know whether or not your patients owe any other responsibilities. So you'll be able to make sure that you're keeping up with that as well. Okay, so for a full-time capacity, dietitians can expect, if you're doing 20, 30 hours a week, you're gonna, using those remaining for admin work and billing. But if you do bucket your time, you can manage it while you're seeing the patients. But depending on how much insurance you're gonna start taking, you may end up having to hire somebody who takes care of that for you. We've grown so much in the 3 years that I would say probably in the next year, I may even need to have a billing office. It'll grow. I'll just tell you, just make sure that you think about it before you do it, depending if you want to go the next step and hire somebody who's going to help you do all that. So for section recap, you want to make sure that you're always collecting that insurance info in advance, make sure that you're verifying the insurance, document the benefits. We keep a note, how many visits they have, what their copay is each time they come in. We collect it at the time that they come in, make sure that you have the right client paperwork in place and signed. And at the initial, make sure that you're collecting their insurance card and driver's license. By the way, we didn't put that there, but yes, you want to make sure you get your driver's license because the insurance rules state that you need to make sure that you are seeing the patient that is on the card. That is one of their policies. And then collect any out-of-pocket expense at the time of service. So now we're complete. So I guess we're going to start going over the questions.
Thank you, Allie. That was super helpful and super thorough. And I know that there's so many people that have a lot of questions. We're going to get through as much as we can. And one thing to just keep in mind, there are a lot of nuances with insurance companies. Just because one client has United Healthcare doesn't mean that they have the same benefits as another client. And so claims processing can get a little bit tricky because it is different from client to client, plan to plan. So we can't address, every single, very particular claims question, but we're going to do our best to go through it now. I'm going to just stop sharing my screen so that I can, hopefully you can all see me and see Allie here. And I'm just going to help moderate some of these questions and read them off to Allie. So if I just go to our Q&A. Great. So just give me 1 second to sort of organize these here. One quick question, Allie, what is an HMO provider?
Okay, so that is a managed health organization. So it's usually for you, it's a little bit more for you. You get paid a little less than you would a PPO, and of course you have to get a if a patient signs up for HMO, where the difference really is you're going to be paid a little less, but it's the patient's responsibility to get a referring physician. They offer these HMOs to particular areas, and it's lower. They have to go to HMO providers, which makes it difficult. That PCP provider has to give them a referral to any specialist. So because we're all considered specialists, they will have to get a referral every time. So if you don't sign up for it, it's with Blue Cross, we just did it across the board. So we are HMO providers, but you can choose not to do so. But it's more for the patient. It lowers their premiums. So that is why they have that option. And not every state has the option. So, and not every employer offers that as well.
Great, thank you. I'm just unmuting myself. Awesome. That was for Stephanie. And for Kristen, is there any disadvantages for being an HMO provider other than perhaps slightly lower reimbursement?
Yeah, and it's not a huge difference. For a follow-up, I'm going to use it as an example. Blue Cross for a follow-up may allow $91 for a visit, and HMO will allow $86. You do the disadvantage. I mean, it's major, minor, but you have to make sure you have that referral. So that it's just a little bit more extra work. I always make the patient call. A lot of times the doctors that refer us know it's an HMO policy. When they submit the referral for the patient, that referral is already listed on the claim. Sometimes we have to follow up with them. Sometimes doctor's offices are a little slower and it takes them several weeks, and the patient can't be seen until we have that referral on file.
Mm-hmm. And then a couple people asked, so I'm going to bulk answer these questions, and Allie, you can help me with those too. It's about sending paperwork to new clients. Do you send it via email? If they don't have the internet, how do we send them forms? So, for most of you, we're using an EHR platform that you can have your forms on. Also for you, Stephanie, yes, include your financial agreement form with that intake and HIPAA form. Put all those forms together. That's called your new client intake paperwork. You put it all together, and you're going to want to use a HIPAA compliant platform because you're sending these forms, which clients, quite typically in the practice that I worked in, if they were older, not too tech savvy, they would get emailed the forms, someone would print them, they would hand write their answers and bring them into the office. You're still going to want to get their insurance information in advance so that you can verify the benefits. But all of the work now that I do, and I know Allie that you do as well, it's all electronically submitted through your EHR platform. So clients receive it, they can securely sign it, and then it's securely stored within their HIPAA compliant client portal. So that's just another benefit for using an EHR.
Yeah, and if they don't have a way to get the forms to, sometimes what we do, and it's not very many, but we do have, the older generation does tend to not be too tech savvy, where we will spend the time to ask them the important questions that we need, that the dietitian needs ahead of time, and we'll fill out some of it. And then when they come in, we have them sign the forms that need to be signed.
Yep. This is a really good question. I get this asked a lot. Allie, I would love to hear your answer to this. The client comes in, you take insurance, but their benefits are not covered, or they are out of network, the client's out of network for what you accept. Can you charge them a higher self-pay rate, your normal self-pay rate, which is higher than the insurance, or do you have to charge them what insurance will reimburse you?
No, if that's not a covered benefit, if you're not contracted, you're contracted for their covered contracted rate. So if Blue Cross contract rate is $158.82, and it's not a covered benefit, then yes, you can charge them. We give a discount. I've seen a lot of doctor's office give discounted rates for cash paying patients. When I came on here, I thought that it would be better to give people discounted rates for insurance. They pay a high premium every month, and cash patients don't have that. So they can pay the cash price. You want to help those offering that will help you, I promise. You'll have some patients that don't want to schedule an appointment if it's not covered, but if you're offering them, if you're saying, hey, we're going to give you a 20% discount because your insurance doesn't cover it, then you'll see them want to possibly keep the appointment. But yes, if you sign a contract with that insurance company for covered services. If it's not a covered services, then yes, you can charge above that.
Great. This is a good question. How do you store a client's credit card information? We circle back to that EHR, HIPAA compliant platform. Where do you want to store all of your clients' information electronically? Use an EHR that has billing capabilities, and then it's PCI compliant is the term, so that you can store your client's credit card there. Healthie is PCI compliant. You'll only see the last couple digits of the credit card number, so it's not even going to show you the whole credit card, but you can charge it on file, or you can request a client to update their credit card on file quite easily if the claim, if any payment has been denied. A great question. What's the difference between pre-authorization and referral?
Okay, so pre-authorization is where you're going to need to get prior authorization. A referral is more or less, okay, so when Medicare, well, I'll use Medicare as a good example. Having a referral from a primary care physician is needed for HMO Medicare. Okay, so you have to have the documentation from your PCP. Physician, or primary care physician. So having that referral on file and referral in our case, most of the time is for those HMO policies. Blue Cross has a couple of different policies that are a little different that require a referral, which is from your primary care physician, has a number. Prior authorization is also going to have a number, but you have to get prior authorization, if that makes sense. Okay, so if you have insurance that says may be allowed, but you call them and they say it may be paid if you get a prior authorization, you have to request that. So a referral coming from the doctor should have that coming. They're kind of similar, but different. If it's kind of, that would be it's kind of hard. I hope that that's coming through clearly, that you're going to have to get the prior authorization usually on their particular website, and a referral is coming from the provider. I hope that for me, I think that just confused you.
The referral is coming from their medical doctor is like a referral. So referred counseling for these diagnosis codes for this condition. Whereas that pre-authorization is like a number. Like you're going to call and this is the rate.
Yes, and you're going to have to get that information for yourself. I mean, where we see prior authorizations, where we try to get prior authorizations is we see a lot of eating disorders. We want them to be seen. It's not covered on their policy, but we can request a prior authorization to try to get it covered.
Great. Let's see, another question just on referrals. So there's some confusion, which totally makes sense. So if a client doesn't need a referral, what do we do as best practices, which we touched on, but as dietitians, we cannot diagnose patients. So we have to get a chart note or written document from a doctor that just lists off what their current medical, confirming their medical conditions. So a lot of questions about the best way to do that. Do you contact the MD? Do you have them e-fax you? Do you have clients bring in a copy of their medical records? Is there any policy or best practices that you use?
We do get that medical release up front. So
Okay.
if we do need to request that, and you can't diagnose, but using that Z7 1.3, which is dietary counseling and surveillance, is something that you guys can use without that referral. I mean, you're not really diagnosing the patient. The patient's coming in for dietary counseling and counseling. So you can utilize that code to, for if you can't get any regular medical diagnosis codes.
Yeah. And in New York Nutrition Group, what we usually had on our intake form, we included the medical consent within that. So we had a section where it's like, who's your primary care physician,
right?
Contact information, maybe contact them regarding your nutritional care, and then that would give us permission to message over the doctor and ask to be e-faxed a latest chart note or a list of diagnoses. And again, for insurance audits, sorry, I'm in New York City, so you're going to hear sirens, but it's best practice to have that stored within your client's chart, because if you were ever audited and you were billed for a client that has an MNT condition like diabetes, just because the client told you that they have diabetes or their blood sugar levels were high, it does not mean it's not confirmed by the doctor. So you do want to just have a latest chart note stored in their file. So if you were ever audited, you can say, I billed for diabetes, and here's the client's doctor's note that confirmed the diagnosis of diabetes. So it's just a routine practice. Can you discuss the importance of ordering your diagnosis codes? Cheryl typically uses the Z7 1.3 and have had it denied, but when she listed another code before it, it's been accepted and paid.
Right. So what was the question?
So the importance of listing, I guess, is sort of
yes.
The importance of listing your diagnosis codes, and then if Z7 1.3, do you typically list it as first?
Right.
Okay.
Right. I mean, primarily, if I know what the insurance company is, okay? So I'm gonna just use this as an example. So Cigna primarily covers 3 visits at 100% per patient. Okay, so we will bill Z7 1.3 for 3 visits. But if they have a medical diagnosis like diabetes, a lot of times, now sometimes Cigna only covers 3 visits, period. But if they allow more visits, that other diagnosis code could be listed. Okay, so for example, if they have diabetes, we try to help the patient out as much as possible legally, right? So you want your patient to be happy. So if you can get that claim covered at 100%, you want to use that code. But if they're also coming in for diabetes, then you can, you change that to your primary. Another very important reason why you want to list out those codes. United Healthcare is a huge one that only allows 3 visits per lifetime per condition. So if you have multiple diagnosis codes listed, you can bill more than those 3 claims. So if she's got high cholesterol, she has diabetes, she has high blood pressure, you can make those 3 visits per lifetime into 9 visits per lifetime, because you've got those multiple diagnosis codes listed on the claim. Then you just change the primary. Okay, we're seeing her for this now. This is the primary code. Then you are able to expand how many visits that patient can actually see.
Awesome. And I think I'm sure people have asked this as well. If your claim is denied, you may not want to change the CPT code, but you may want to try resubmitting with a different diagnosis code.
Exactly.
Great. A question, is Availity considered a clearinghouse? I don't think so. Availity is just for insurance verification benefits. It's not for submitting.
Well, you can submit claims through Availity. I haven't really, now mind you, there are only certain things that I've used through Availity, but I have submitted claims through Availity.
Okay.
Sometimes my corrected claims, it's quicker to use it. So like I can document it. It already has the claim, especially if it's Blue Cross. And I'll pull up the claim, and I can do but I have tried to submit, just play with it, to submit my submission through Availity, and I don't think any of those claims got processed. So I don't know. There's so many you can get on Availity. There are so many training things that you could do through Availity that's a good question for Availity, is to see if they have that available.
Great. Jumping ahead, a few questions. Just what is a taxonomy code?
Okay, so the taxonomy code is the description, is a number that describes what you do. So 133V00000X is for dietitians. There are other codes for like pediatric dietitians. I don't have that one memorized. So each, I guess, profession has their own taxonomy code. It's the description of your service, who you are.
Great. I know people are going to ask, can you repeat what that one for the dietitians is one more time?
Yeah, I can't remember if it's 5 zeros or not, but it's 133 V as in Victor 0000X. I may be missing a zero in there. Maybe we'll have that, on the final where I can actually look it up.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure you could just Google if you put that in taxonomy.
Yes, you can Google it. Yes, you can Google it and you will be able to find it.
Great. How does using 97804 for group classes, do you get paid full for each attendee, or is it a different cost?
It is a different fee. So that's something that, okay, so one of the things that we didn't put in here, we didn't really touch on credentialing, but when you go to get credentialed, you want to ask them what your fee schedule is per unit. Try to do it before you sign your contract. You'd like to know what your fee schedule is. If that's not acceptable to you, then don't sign the contract and don't go and network with them. But yes, the classes is like 12. It's not huge. It's like $12 a unit. So if you're doing an hour class, know that you're only going to get paid probably like $25. Mm-hmm. That's Blue Cross. Everybody has a different reimbursement rate. So
that's right. And just to recap, someone asked, yes, group sessions are billed in 30 minutes increments.
Yes.
And the other ones, 97802 and the follow-up one, those are you can bill up to 6 units, which are 15 minutes.
Yes.
Increment.
And that is and I found that information on eatright.org.
Right.
Couldn't think of that website earlier and it just popped into my head. So eatright.org is where it tells you, which is what you guys should be using, for, all of that. Should be nationwide, I assume. But that actually tells you those are the codes and you can only bill up to 6. I haven't attempted to try to bill any more than that. So.
Yeah, it's a great resource. There is a section, if you're an Academy member, there is a section that is on insurance billing and has some resources there as well, which I've looked at and it's been really helpful. We have a lot of questions, guys. We will not be able to get through all of them today, and we're gonna do our best. We still have like 45 questions. Just to answer the ones that have been most commonly asked, just a super side note on the CMS form, you will rarely need the actual physical form, but if you did need them, you can actually pick them up at Staples or another office store.
Yes.
Let's see, is there a website? So is there a website where you can log in and verify patients' benefits, or is calling the only way? Yes, you can use Availity as that tool where you can verify the benefits, or some insurance providers, correct me if I'm wrong, Allie, you can log into their website.
Yes, some of them you can look online. Availity usually does not have nutritional counseling listed, But you can, in some cases, if it's local, it gives you the opportunity to put in like the procedure codes, the amount, and it may show you how much it's going to be covered. The only problem with doing that though is you don't know how many visits it's going to allow. So if you're wanting to see these patients on a regular basis, you need to know what the visit max is. That's important.
Great. This one I can tackle for Katie. I'm familiar with clearinghouses and EHR available to private practice dietitians. Can you give some examples? So the most common clearinghouse used is Office Ally that I've seen.
Yes.
That's the biggest one. And again, it's free for any insurance companies or a network that is considered a participating provider, but there are some that may not be a participating provider, and then there may be a fee associated with that. The EHRs, what Allie uses and what I use is Healthie, but there are a couple of other EHR platforms out there as well. And so there are quite a few that also do insurance billing as well. So if you want to ask some friends and colleagues out there, absolutely, there are a couple of other big platforms that you can use. Let's see. Okay, so this is a good question. Can you accept insurance payment and charge an additional fee? So I know this question gets asked a lot because dietitians, perhaps that reimbursement rate is a little bit lower than what you would like to make. And so can you tack on a self-pay fee to that?
Not if you're contracted. If you sign that contract, you cannot. This is important. This is so important. You can't. You cannot. I mean, now you can charge your patient a no-show fee. You can charge them a, that kind of fee, but you cannot. If you sign that contract with an insurance company, you are not allowed to bill above and beyond what you have agreed to get paid on.
Yeah, and contracting, that is a whole nother conversation.
Yes.
And if anyone's interested, I can absolutely send out some resources. We had the precursor to this webinar, which was on the credentialing and contracting phase, and I have some resources as well as far as like negotiating your contract rates, which is really important because if you do that up front, you can at least have better reimbursement rates. Instead of just accepting automatically what the insurance company puts out there to reimburse you. There are other ways. With that being said, there are other ways to generate income on top of insurance. There's add-on services that you can provide that insurance won't cover, but a client may want to self-pay on. That again is sort of a different conversation, but some things are like a subscription service. So perhaps, for if clients want a little bit more accountability, they want ongoing support and food journal reviews. If you want to offer a subscription service that clients can self-pay for, you can absolutely do that. When you work with a client in insurance, you are only getting paid for that time that client is in your office having a session. You're not getting paid for any other work outside. You cannot bill for that. So there's other ways that you can generate additional income, but you cannot charge a client more than what the contracted rate is. Allie, do all insurance companies accept 6 units for an initial consult?
No, you're not going to have, you will have some that try to split it out. But I mean, I've seen Aetna where they split it out, but they actually pay pretty good. I mean, they don't pay, I mean, we're not contracted, but if we have contracted rate, sometimes they'll say that that's more than allowed, but we're not contracted with Aetna, so that may change when we become in network with them, but most of them do. But now if your claim denies for multiple units, this may be a whole nother conversation. However, Blue Cross, there are some where they're not. Yeah, okay, so if you have multiple units, sometimes the insurance thinks it's multiple days. And so you have to call them, and so that could be a whole nother subject of what happens when my claim denies. So we may have to do a whole nother thing on helping you determine how your claim denied and what the denial is. But the most part, yes, they do. You just have to specify if it does deny, it doesn't deny all of it. I can't complain when Aetna does it because we're not contracted. But when the other insurance companies do deny it or try to split it out, I tell them, no, this is one day, this is how we bill, you know, that kind of thing. So for the most part, yes, but I have seen where Aetna splits it out, but I'm not contracted, so I can't argue with it yet.
Great. This is a good question. Can you legally charge a cancellation fee? And the best of my knowledge, Allie, is yes, you can. Not for Medicare. That's right. That's right.
I don't know about I'm not. Honestly, that's a good question on Medicare. But I know, yes, legally you can charge a cancellation fee. You just can't bill the insurance for it. You can charge the patient for it because those are your rules and guidelines. You just cannot bill the insurance company. They are not going to pay you for it.
Yeah, and I would just double check if you are a Medicare provider.
Yeah, make sure with that, because that one I'm not sure of, because I don't know that that's anything, as long as you're not billing them for it, I don't know why it wouldn't, especially if it's something that they're not even coming in to see you for that's a covered benefit. So I'm not sure on the Medicare. I didn't hear that there were any any doctor's office you go to is going to possibly charge a no-show cancellation fee. And I don't think they specify between what kind of insurance you have. So I don't know that that's a rule, but we can, that's something to look into.
Some questions, guys, if there is anything that you wanted us to just repeat or you didn't hear well, this is recorded. The replay will go out. So I'm going to have to skip over those questions if we've already addressed it. So just watch the replay and you can fast forward to find the section that you were interested in. If you wanted to know about credentialing, I can send me an email. I'll send you some other resources separately. Let's see. Are you legally allowed to waive the fee the insurance sends back that the patient is responsible to pay that shows up on the EOB? That's a very nice question. So if patient wasn't covered 100%, and or maybe perhaps that the patient owed responsibility, can you choose to waive that if you would like?
Oh yeah. If you want to waive it, that's definitely your prerogative. You just can't expect the insurance to cover it because you signed that contract. But if you want to tell your patient, you know what, you owe $100 towards your deductible, I'm not going to charge you, that's fine. Or that's your prerogative. Yeah. If you want to lose, you don't want that money, then yeah.
This is another back to Medicare. Does Medicare allow you to charge less for cash paying payments if they will not pay? So I'm assuming that means the client doesn't meet the diagnosis. They can't use Medicare because you can't bill for it. And Allie, this is what you do. You offer a percentage off the self-pay rate so that the service is more affordable for the patient.
Right, and that's what we do. Yeah, you give a 30% discount for Medicare and Medicaid patients.
This is for Carrie. Sometimes I'm asked to enter a pointer code. I've seen that. It must be the same as the diagnosis pointer code.
Oh, your pointer code? Okay, so what your pointer code is, it is your diagnosis code, but when you're using electronic, it's asking you, so is A, B, or C? A, B, C, or D, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Yeah. So it's actually numbering your diagnosis codes. So if you don't have that listed, so say you forgot to click the button, you've got your diagnosis codes, but you didn't either put A as or Z71 is primary and it's A. E780 is secondary, it's B. The pointer code is actually you must be using an EHR and it's requesting that from you. So, but that's what that is.
This is a good question. If a client has insurance and they don't want to use it, can you charge them your higher self-pay rate?
Hmm. Um, I would have asked why they don't want to use it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why wouldn't I mean, we always make them use their insurance unless it's not covered. I mean, I guess they have the choice if they want to use their insurance, then and they want to pay out of pocket. Yeah, I wouldn't see why you couldn't. You're not billing the insurance. It's if you're billing the insurance is where I think you're going to hit your legal part if you're trying to bill them and then try to get more money. But if they don't want to use their insurance, that's their. I would have them sign something stating that they did not want to use their insurance
Mm-hmm.
just to cover yourself. But so if they decide not to, create a form that says patient did not want to use insurance, agreed to pay this price. So that way you're covered.
Yeah, but quite typically, guys, it's not going to be an issue. If more often clients really don't want to pay out of pocket for insurance for nutrition counseling, they want to use their insurance. So if they have it, they're probably going to use it.
Right, right.
No-show fees. How much do you charge for a no-show fee? This is going to be particular to your practice. You can charge what you want. Some people charge more. Some people charge less. New York Nutrition Group, we charged, I believe it was 40, and then we changed it to 50. It was maybe 50 for an initial, 40 for a follow-up. Allie, I don't know how much your practice.
We charge 30, and you know, I've had doctors' offices that will charge you bill charge.
Yeah.
So it is your preference.
Yeah. And I would say, guys, just always communicate in your new client paperwork. And I also had it in a little disclaimer under my signature in any client communication that if you do not cancel, what's my cancellation policy and what that fee is. Because trust me, people don't cancel as much when they know they're going to get charged. So,
well, not to mention the fact that if you have that paperwork on file, now we put that on file not only to say, hey, you signed this, first of all, but second, if you have a card on file that you're using to charge in that fee and they try to tell their bank that they did not approve those services, you have that piece of paper that is signed that states, yes, they did, and here it is. So you get your money no matter what. So that's why that's important too.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, does insurance cover meal plans? Which again, this is the tricky thing about insurance, but this is not tricky, but this is a thing. You're only going to get reimbursed for the time you spend in office with client. You cannot bill for any additional time that you spend creating a meal plan, reading food journals, answering client emails. You cannot get paid for that. You can try billing if you wind up doing a virtual call or a phone call with a client. You can bill as a session, as a telehealth session, but you're not going to be able to bill for things like creating meal plans unless it was done during your session that you were doing that. Let's see. Great question. Out of network benefits, how does that work? And perhaps, segueing into like what a super bill is really quick. So Allie, do you wanna, if a client comes in and you don't take their insurance, so you're an out of network provider, what are you gonna do?
So you can still submit it to try to get reimbursed, but more than likely it's going to apply, most insurances, it's going to apply to their out-of-network deductible. So you're doing them a favor. So for us, for Aetna, I tell our patients that we're out of network, but I will bill for you anyway. That way it applies to their out-of-network deductible. So you may or may not have a patient who's met their out-of-network deductible, and then it'll be a reimbursed, but we still collect the money up front. Then I will submit the claim, and then if they do reimburse any of those services, then we either give the patient a refund or we take that off of their next visit.
This is a question just on telehealth, which, guys, this is telehealth is a whole nother conversation. It's a whole nother presentation, so we really can't get too much into telehealth. One, just to answer some questions that are here, the 02 is the place of service code you use with telehealth, and then you use the same CPT codes, 97802, 97803. Some insurance companies may require a modifier code, as I've heard. Allie, maybe you would know. Some require place of service 02 with a modifier code, but I believe that's sort of being replaced by just needing a place of service code.
Place of service is primarily what they're requesting, because that determines where the place is. Having a modifier may have been something that they did in the past, but now that they actually have a telehealth place of service code, I think covers it.
If you're seeing clients in different states via telehealth, you must adhere to the licensure laws of your client's state, so where they reside. So if a client sees you in office, but they're from Texas and you're in New York, so they come to New York and they see you in your office in New York, you're registered in New York, you are credentialed, you are licensed in New York, you can see that patient. However, if that patient is in Texas and you are not licensed in Texas, and that's where they're residing, and you're seeing them via telehealth, that's a little bit different when you're billing insurance. So I would keep that in mind. And again, that is another conversation. If you're interested in learning more about telehealth and telehealth billing, send me an email. I have some more resources that I can send you, and perhaps past webinar or replay that you may be interested in. So it's Stephanie@gethealthy.com. But yes, that's the gist of telehealth. Maybe we asked, great question from Stacy, and I think that's possibly all the questions we can get to today. How do I hire someone to do all of this? It's a fair question. You're over, I would say, Allie, my experience working with dietitians, some just know upfront, I'm not going to be great at the billing thing. I don't want to take the time to do the billing thing. I am a counselor, a dietitian. I want to spend my time doing that. And I would say if that is for you, then you want to seek out a biller like Allie that specifically does billing for dietitians.
And I didn't have that experience. I mean, I process claims. So that my knowledge helped a lot with the billing, because I knew how the claim should be processed. So, I mean, trying to find somebody who has that knowledge already is good.
Yeah,
so
for sure. And again, email me if you're looking for some references for a biller that you can connect with. Just send me an email, and I can try and help you out and connect you with someone there. But yeah, I think the first step for a lot of people is probably hiring an office assistant or virtual assistant to help with the scheduling and patient verification process. And then if billing becomes a little bit more, although we're a really firm believer that you should know what's going on with the claims, you should know the basics of claim submission. And then if your practice has grown to the point where you can't handle that time anymore, then that's absolutely when you start to look for some outsourcing. I think that is it. Last question, Allie, I know you've got to go. Some dietitians work with doctors in a physician's office. This is, you may not know too much about this, but let's say, I think there's two scenarios. If you are credentialed with insurance panels and you sort of work in a physician's office, then the physician can refer you patients and you bill as normal, as typical. If you're not credentialed and you work in a physician's office, I believe that's incident 2 billing, where the physician can bill the patient's insurance.
I think so too, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure on that part of it though, so I don't know how that usually works. And I think that's when a modifier might actually come into play, by the way, is if, say, a patient saw a doctor and then comes and sees you the same day, that's when a modifier would be needed. But I'm not really sure how. I would assume that if you're in a physician's office, your biller in that office will know how to work.
Yeah, I definitely have heard of this case. It is more of incident 2 billing, so you're providing nutrition services after the patient has gone in to see the physician. And so you're basically providing the nutrition counseling on behalf of the physician. And then either if you're not credentialed with insurance, the physician can submit that claim.
And I think the big way to tell is if your billing NPI number is under the doctor, then you are included in that group. If you have your own specific billing and rendering, then you will be billing for yourself. I think that's how the best way to describe
Yeah.
that.
But there are a lot of sort of requirements that have to be met, and not all insurance payers do allow for incident to billing. Again, if you've got questions very specific about incident to billing, email me and I'll try and find you some resources or connect you with the right person, because there's just so much to know and there's so many nuances here. But Allie, I think that is what we can get through all the questions. There have been so many. And again, if you want to know what my contact information is, you can email me. It was on that last slide, and you'll also get an email from me after this webinar. So I will let this recording render, and then I will upload it, and I will send an email out to everyone that you'll have my email address, you'll have the PowerPoint slides, you'll have the recording from this webinar, and you will have the certificate to submit for your continuing education credits. So hopefully we've answered the majority of your questions today and you've learned something. Allie, I want to thank you again so much for your time today. It's really
Thank you for having me.
All right. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.